How has water been important to you during your career?
Well, I started my career in the 1970s when the nation was just beginning to wrestle with pollution, air and water pollution in particular. New federal laws passed in the early 1970s. States started programs to clean up. Before that, there were really severe water pollution problems and air pollution problems that people noticed all the time. So I was interested in wildlife, fish, natural environments, but at that time really thought that I could make a difference by working on water. So I began my career with fisheries and water quality. So that was my beginning. A lot of lakes and streams were polluted to the point where they were unpleasant to be around. Fish populations were harmed, so if you're interested in fishing, that opportunity was taken away from you. It wasn't safe to swim in many places in natural waters. And, you know, I felt that was an important part of keeping the world a decent place to live. Well, the Ludington Pump Storage Plant enables them to use cheaper power made by the large coal and nuclear plants and store it and avoid using more expensive natural gas for their peak periods. It does that by pumping water uphill at night and other times when load is low.
Okay.
And then in order to meet peak loads, it runs the water back down the hill, turns a turbine, and generates power. Other pump storage plants are mostly in rivers where there are two dams, one just above the other, in the river course.
Okay.
But the Ludington Pump Storage Plant is a bit different. It sits on the shore of Lake Michigan, about 10 miles south of Ludington, in sort of the central part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula. And the company's constructed a large reservoir in amongst the sand dunes on land. And then they pump water out of Lake Michigan into that reservoir and then run it back down into Lake Michigan to generate power. It doesn't make power net. It's important to understand it actually uses power. About a third of the power that's used to pump the water is lost to friction and other things before it's run back downhill and power generated. But it basically uses cheap power to pump and then produces expensive power at times when power is expensive when it generates. So that's useful for the power company. It adds to the reliability of the grid for all of us. And in that sense, it's a good thing.
Is that water then, when it is returned and re-entered into the ecosystem, is that considered contaminated water, or is it still?
Not really. It's predominantly that it's heated.
Okay.
That disrupts the seasonal pattern of life in the lake and can kill fish, other aquatic organisms, and then it kills fish.
Okay. All right.
There is a modest amount of chemical added, mostly for cleaning things like salt deposits out of the water onto the condensers. But those things are not what we normally consider to be contaminants. They're not terribly bad chemicals. They have some problems.
Those sound very, familiar uses of to produce energy. Citing coal plants, nuclear plants, turbines. Is there anything on the docket for the next, 5, 10, 20 years that's going to revolutionize how we use water in order to produce energy?
There's a company in Ann Arbor, spin off from the University of Michigan, Vortex Hybrid.
Okay.
And they have a really interesting technology. They looked at how fish swim, and in particular as they move through the water, they think their tails wag back and forth, but really their body bends one way and then another. What propels them forward is that when the body bends in one direction, it creates an eddy, a circular flow of water next to the fish on the other side. And then when they bend back the other way, they sort of push against that eddy and push with their tail, push themselves forward.
Huh.
So these people at the University of Michigan, understanding that, thought, maybe we can construct a machine that will in a similar way capture the energy from water flow. They've done so. It is now in pilot testing. It's not in production use anymore. They did deploy it for a few days in the St. Clair River last summer in order to test it out and see what kinds of problems they might have. So the technology is still under development. But what's really nice about it is it doesn't appear that it have any adverse effect on the fish.
Great.
You don't have to build a dam and block the flow of water or a reservoir. You can just put it where water flows naturally. So you can put it in a river or in a current in the ocean, things like that.
Incredible.
And I think that is going to turn out to be probably not enough to meet all of our energy needs by any means, but really useful.
You said that company's based in Michigan?
Yes, they're based in Michigan.
Oh, that's great work. That's great news.